We're so excited to have you all here with us today. If you are comfortable turning on your cameras and unmuting yourself throughout the event, we would love for you to do so. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to just use the chat function or keep your camera off. So today for Teach Me How to Business, we're going to be going through the stages of going to a business event. So how to prepare for an event, what to do during an event, what to do after an event, as well as we'll have some networking sessions at the end where you'll have a chance to win some amazing prizes. So with that being said, let's kick it off right away into how to prepare for an event.
Okay, so let's talk about how to prepare for an event 1 week before the event. Okay, so 1 week before, you're going to want to prepare your LinkedIn. So if you don't already have a LinkedIn account, I highly recommend that you make one, and you can add a cool headshot. You can add a background cover photo. Don't forget to insert your work experience, your education. If you've got any really cool volunteer, extracurricular involvement that you want to highlight, that's a great place to do that. Don't be afraid to add in all of your honors and awards. That's the time to show off. You can talk about some of you can add the courses that you're in. And there's also a really great area called the summary, where you can summarize about yourself, the less fact-based information. You can really make it unique, make it your own, be creative, and let your personality shine through. You also want to prepare your resume and know it well. So this is kind of a twofold reason. You want to have a resume prepared so you have a really great outline of what your experiences are and what you have to offer. So when you go to an event and you're talking and you're networking, you're able to bring up those really great experiences. And another reason why you should have your resume prepared and on hand is because let's say you're talking to someone at that event and they mention an opportunity, whether it's a job opportunity, a volunteer opportunity, or maybe some sort of program, and they say, oh, have you heard of this job? Have you heard of this program? I think you'd be great. You have that resume ready to send over to them. So it's really great to have a resume prepared on hand. Another really great way to prepare for an event about a week before is to start researching the key attendees and companies. So have some questions, have some talking points in mind. If you're going to, let's say, an RBC event, it's a networking event at RBC. Research not only RBC and the company and the different lines of business, but also take some time to figure out who's going to be at that event, so you can look at their LinkedIn and really tailor some questions for them. I think that will make you really stand out. Don't be afraid to research the industry, any recent news. If you're in accounting or in finance or in technology, make sure you find out the latest things that are happening in those fields, so you can bring that up to the people that you're talking to. And again, use resources such as LinkedIn to look up the people who will be at the event, or Instagram. Most companies have an Instagram or a Facebook or a website of some sort. You can use that as a resource to figure out what are some things that you can talk about, you can tie back to your own experience, and really make a lasting impression at the event. Okay, so some LinkedIn tips. Once again, if you have not already made a LinkedIn, I highly recommend that you create an account. So step one, set a professional profile picture and background up. So if you don't already have a headshot, now is a great time. Put on your best professional attire, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Get a friend, get a parent, get a sibling to take a nice headshot. All of our phones have really great cameras now, so do that. Upload it to your computer and make that your LinkedIn profile picture. Ensure that your headline is simple, clear, and reflects you. So make sure that it captures who you are, but isn't too lengthy. But take the opportunity to be creative, and again, let your personality shine through there. Don't be too lazy to write a summary. So I talked about the summary section of the LinkedIn profiles before. This is a really great opportunity to let your personality shine through and to be creative and to tell a little bit more of your story, as opposed to maybe an education, work experience, volunteer experience. Yes, that's reflective of who you are, but it's very fact-based, where you're talking about what you did, the results you achieved. That summary section allows you to talk about how all of your experiences come together and make you unique and make you you. Customize your LinkedIn URL. So this is a really big one, especially if you're putting your LinkedIn on your resume. So you want to make sure that it's not like backslash your name, a bunch of letters and numbers. You want to make it professional. So if you can shorten it to just your first and last name, or your first and last name and a number or two, I think that would be really, really great as well. Making valuable connections. So we'll definitely talk more about that throughout the presentation today, but don't be afraid to connect with other people. And when you're sending out those connections, make sure that you're personalizing those invitations. So that way, they know who you are. You're not just sending out random connections. Start connecting with people who you go to school with, who are in your classes, your professors. That's a great way to start making connections. And then as you attend these networking events and these club events and committee events, you can connect with a broader range of people. And the way that LinkedIn works is that in order for what is of interest of you to come up on your feed, you need to be able to follow those companies and those industries. So make sure that you are following all of those companies and things that are of interest to you. So you can follow McMaster, you can follow DeGroote, you can follow CPA Ontario, any companies or anything like that that's of interest, give them a follow and those will come up on your feed.
Awesome. So now moving into some resources. To start off, we will be welcoming Danielle Little from the Career and Professional Development Office here at McMaster. Danielle, thank you so much for joining us today. The floor is all yours.
Excellent, thank you. And welcome to all of the students who have decided to join us this evening. It always is one of my favorite kickoff events of one of the student clubs, although I probably should not play favorites. I always love this event because of the energy and the enthusiasm and the great pieces of advice that are given. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen so I can share my screen. Perfect. So we'll get going here. And just as a little introduction about myself, so my name is Danielle Little. Whoops. And oh, sorry, hold on. I can't find what I'm looking for here. 1 second. Share, see if it will let me move to where I want to go. There we go. And I am the program lead in the Career and Professional Development Office within the DeGroote School of Business. So really what I love to do when I come into this event every year is just give you a little bit of insight into who we are within the Career Center and some things that you can take advantage of throughout your time at DeGroote. So maybe first and foremost, I do love a little bit of interaction. So maybe you can tell me in the chat if you have used CPD before. So, or if you're new to using our services. Gabby, I love your enthusiasm in terms of saying not yet, because I love the yet. Perfect. Good, good, good. So some yeses, some no's, some maybes. So that's excellent to know who's in the room, and so I can target this a little bit more closely. So to give you a little bit of an overview, our career team is located in the DeGroote School of Business, and we are your full service career center for all full-time business students. So we are here to aid you in any of your needs as they relate to summer, full-time, or internship employment. And we do that through a variety of different ways. So some of that is through career development. So I'll talk a little bit about what some of those resources are. Obviously, employer partnerships. So bringing those employers to campus and opportunities to engage with you, whether that be through networking opportunities, professional development, mentorship, or actually postings, and experiential learning opportunities. So big guess on what the major experiential learning opportunity is at DeGroote that our Career Center facilitates. Anybody know? Type it in the chat if you do. Internship, you got it. We tend to be known for the internship program. And yes, it is a great program that many students can participate in, and lots of other career opportunities for every student as well. One thing that we are not is we are not academic advisors. So we do reside with the academic team, we work very closely with them, but we are all things career. And so to give you a little bit of a sense of who you might meet in our team if you ever come to engage with us, we do have a great team of not only relationship managers who are more of our student facing individuals, Allison, Chantel, and Carm, who can help you with coaching and critiquing and teaching you some of the things that you need in your career toolkit. We also have our manager, Cynthia Bishop, who resides both in Hamilton and in Burlington. Myself, who helps to make sure that our operations are running seamlessly. Sim is our associate. So if you've heard of Oscar Plus and you're doing things in terms of job postings, events, interviews, she really is our expert behind the scenes. And we do have a manager of employer development. So again, back to that employer relationship piece and making sure we are bringing top tier employers to campus for you. Nicola is our team member that tends to handle that. So it is just coincidence that our team is all female, but I do love to highlight that when I'm at this event because we do a lot of amazing things, and really excited for you to all engage with us. A little bit more about you now. So, one of the things I do always like to do is get to know who you are. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and I'd love for you to type your answers in the chat. So I'll start with an easy one, and that is, what year are you in? What year of your commerce program are you in? Third, second, third, first. Okay. Can't believe it. I know, right? Someone internship. Excellent. Very good. Thank you. Great. And I'll answer questions too, just so that we can, feel like this is a give and take. I will not tell you what year I am, but I will tell you that I have actually worked at McMaster for almost 15 years, if you can believe it. Next question for you is, type in the chat one word you would use to describe yourself. Outgoing, ambitious, bold. I love that. Determined, friendly, hardworking. Empathetic. Excellent. Look at these great people we have in the room with us tonight. Hardworking. Awesome. Great. If I'm going to answer that question, I'm going to say one word that I've used to describe myself is energetic. I'm feeling that right now, but maybe it's because I had a cup of coffees today. You asked me when my kids wake me up at 6 a.m., maybe not so much. Next question for you is, what is something you have learned in the past year about yourself? About yourself, or just something that you've learned? Don't sweat the small stuff. Time flies. Yes. These are great. Yeah. I'm really loving these. This is great. And I think it speaks a lot to what we have all been experiencing and what we have all gone through, right? Yes. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Yeah, I think one of the things that I've learned is you always need to be flexible, and we are all doing our best, right? It may not feel like it, but we are all doing our best in the situation that we are in. Awesome. And my last question for you that I want you to answer is, what do you want to do? What do you think is something important? Sorry, let me try that again. What is something important to you in a job? What do you want to have in a job? Good culture, people, community. Yep. Challenge, balance. Interesting. Stability. Great. A healthy environment. Yeah. Creativity, social, flexibility. Absolutely. Those are great things. Why do we like to do these types of activities? Because again, It relates to career, in that career is not only about what you want, but you need to know first who you are to help you make those connection points in terms of finding what you want in a job, right? And kind of knowing who you are, what you're capable of, how you're going to describe yourself to people is only going to bring you that little bit forward. So when we think about our career choices that we make throughout our journey are made up of so many different things. I'm going to highlight just a few of those things so that you can start really thinking about where you might want to go with your career. So obviously, some of the things that we choose to make are based on our interests, our knowledge, our access to experiences, and our relationships. And what do I mean by that? Well, really what we're thinking about is, if you think about when you were young, right? They always talk about how typically you're fueled by your passions, right? And your interests, and how those evolve over time will evolve, but those core interests will remain the same. And that might guide you in terms of what you might want to do in your career. Also, we sometimes are leaning towards different career choices just based on what we know, right? If you think of, okay, myself, I always wanted to be a teacher because I knew what teachers did, right? Or you see firefighters or police officers. But there's so many other things out there. And with more knowledge, you tend to gain access to more different opportunities and choices. And that can come also, again, with the various different experiences you may have and the different people you may meet along the way. So when we think a little bit about career choices, it's important that we're opening ourselves up to as many opportunities as possible to kind of gain this different perspective and gain this different exposure to help guide you, because career is a journey. It's not a one-stop shop, right? It's going to be messy and it's going to move all around, and that's okay. So thinking about how you incorporate your passions and your pastimes and activities into things that you might want to do in your career, looking to gain knowledge through research and the different classes that you take and different professional development opportunities. Obviously, access to different opportunities, those can be paid or unpaid. They can be, shorter term or longer term. All of those things will kind of give you skill sets and allow you to decide what you like, and more importantly, what you don't like to do. And then who is around you that can kind of help and guide you and give you some of those exposures as well. So one of the things that we can also do is help you on that journey. So when we look a little bit about what the journey might look like for you in every kind of level of your program at the group, obviously, first and foremost, are workshops. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Us being here today is a little bit of a preview of what you might experience, and really looking at summer job opportunities. What are you going to do between first and second year to build your experience? For those of you who are in first year, you've probably already seen a preview of us in One Grow with our videos and our career workbook, and you'll see more of us in winter term as well. When you move into second year, that's when we get a little bit more into campus recruitment. So that's where you focus a little bit more on summer opportunities that are within business functions. So we really tend to focus on preparing second year students for that. And you may choose to take our career course, which is Commerce 2.0, which is a prerequisite if you want to apply to the BCom with internship program. And third year, you may choose to, again, apply to the BCom with internship program. That is, as you know, kind of our flagship work integrated learning program, in which students can go out for 12 to 16 months and work at a business employer. Or you may also choose to focus on summer. One is not better than the other. I'm going to blow that myth right now, because it's not about one being better than the other. It's what is right for you. How is that going to get into what your ultimate career goals are? And we like to get into a little bit more specialized workshops and opportunities for you to connect as you really start to pinpoint maybe what that area of focus for you may be. And finally, we get into new grad recruitment. So bing, bang, boom, all of a sudden you're out the door, and we need to make sure that you are employed. And so that's where we focus on that in level 4. All along the way, always there's coaching, always there's technology and tools available to you, and that is all through the CPD office. When you look at job search, really quick and interactive again, when you start to think about, okay, I'm ready to find a job, what do you need? What do you need to have? Megan's already alluded to a couple of them in the slides. What do you need to have ready to go? You can type it in the chat. Resume, cover letter, yes, a LinkedIn, absolutely. What else do you need to be prepared for? Oh, I love this solid results-oriented resume. Good questions, references, interview skills, yes. Elevator pitch, yes, networking, you're gonna learn more about that today, right? So really what all of those kind of tools are that are gonna help you be successful in a recruitment process, right? So one is figuring out what kind of job you want and how to look for that job. And then it's about how am I competitive in securing that job? So absolutely, again, our team can help you do that. We do offer one-on-one coaching all year round. Actually, right now, we can offer that in person or virtually. And that tends to be the most popular service for students who are really looking to start to dig into some of those toolkit pieces. So whether that's the resume, the cover letter, networking, mock interviews, we really are there to provide that service full stop for you. In preparation for that, we also have a lot of online resources on Oscar Plus, guides and one-pagers that can get you started so that when you go into that appointment, you're making the most of it. We also offer a number of opportunities for you to connect with employers through career fairs and information sessions, alumni coffee breaks, industry talks, and as I mentioned, programming with Commerce 2.0 or the BCom with Internship program. All of those things you can find on Oscar Plus. If you have not been on Oscar Plus yet, don't worry. It's there when you're ready. And I'd like to say that it's fairly easy to use once you get in there. If not, we are always happy to help you. So if you just take a quick preview here, this is where you also find job postings. So for business students, you do have access to both the DeGroote School of Business job postings tab, as well as Student Success Center. So that is an opportunity for you to maximize your job search. Student Success Center posts jobs cross faculty, so all across McMaster, which would include business students as well. So you may be surprised to learn there's already summer opportunities that are being posted on the daily and have already come and gone. So already being active in that job search piece might be important to you now. Similarly, this is how you book appointments with us. So it's all through the system, really easy to do. You go on, you find your availability and what you want to do, and you book it. Similarly, like I said, we have a resource tab under DeGroote School of Business. That's where you'll find a number of guides, resources, associations and designations, and different things that you can leverage. A little bit of a plug here too on some upcoming opportunities. Love that LinkedIn was already highlighted in terms of some key pieces. We are also hosting some LinkedIn workshops in November called Rock Your Profile. And that is a great opportunity to take what you've learned today and then really elevate it if you want to come to that workshop. We are hosting an alumni coffee break with a partner from BDO on November 10th and a summer job search workshop on November 17th. So I really hope that you might check these out. You can find them again, as I mentioned, on Oscar Plus under the events calendar or in the Commerce Bulletin for more details. So I really hope that gives you a little bit of inspiration when it comes to career. We love engaging with students. We are here and we will meet you at your level when you're ready. I hope in some of the networking you do later on this evening, you will connect with some of the executive members who have used our services and are happy to say good things about them. But there are many different ways that you can connect with us moving forward. So as I mentioned to you, Chantel, Carmen, and Allison, those are our relationship managers. Myself and Sim, always happy to help and answer any questions that you may have. We do offer virtual appointments, or as I mentioned, we are in the office now. So back on campus on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Feel free to stop by and say hello in our new space. So for those who have been on campus and knew the bistro previously, we are now in the bistro as our new office space. So come and say hello, or find us on LinkedIn or on MS Teams, or email us bcom.cpd@mcmaster.ca. We are happy to be here to guide you in your career journey. So biggest thing I want you to take away from today is It is about discovery, it is about exploration, and it is about enjoying whatever your own career path may be. So like I said, we are able to support whatever that chooses to be. And I'm happy if there are any questions. I don't know, Marissa, how much time I took up, but if there are any quick questions, I'm happy to answer them.
If anyone does have any questions, feel free to either unmute yourself or send them off in the chat.
No problem. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to have this platform to be able to connect. I usually stay for the whole event. Unfortunately, there are last minute Halloween costume arrangements that must be made for school tomorrow. So I do hope you all have a great evening. Enjoy your networking and all the great things you're going to do today.
Thank you so much, Danielle. It's a pleasure having you. All right, so now just going off of what we talked about before and what Danielle shared with all of us, we're going to move into what to do one day before an event.
Beautiful. Yeah, so thank you, everybody. We've talked a little bit about what to do to prepare the week before an event, and now just to jump into how to prepare the day before. And a big part of this is picking what you're going to wear. So typically an event will provide you with a dress code to adhere to that will fall under one of the four sections that we'll talk about today. The first being coffee chat chic. So one big thing to note here is it can be a casual day-to-day look. But you are going to try to make sure that you're keeping it clean and professional looking, making sure that you look put together. So essentially it's what you would wear if you're going to meet someone for coffee. So in this situation, jeans, leather pants, anything presentable that you feel comfortable in should be just fine. You are, however, going to try to avoid sweatpants, sports clothes, hoodies, etc. Now, just an example of what this might look like. Here's some of our lovely executives demonstrating what this might look like for you. And if you have any additional things that you want to add to that, something that you might add to a coffee chat chic look, feel free to drop it in the chat. We'd love to hear your guys' suggestions as well. And then moving into smart casual. So a great way to think about this is what would you wear to a nice dinner? So in this situation as well, jeans are also acceptable. And this can include any colors, patterns, or accessories that you might like. So this is where you can really have fun with it. Also a blouse, blazer, or cover up are acceptable in this situation as well. We are, however, trying to avoid open-toed shoes or headwear, except of course for religious or cultural purposes. We have some of our execs here demonstrating this as well. Once again, if there's anything you'd like to add, any tips that you might have, please feel free to unmute yourself or drop them in the chat. We would love to hear it.
Okay, moving on to business casual. So getting a little bit more formal here. So the basis for this, we can start off kind of with neutral colors. If you don't know where to go for a business casual, I recommend kind of starting here with those basics. And then you can also, don't be afraid to include some prints or patterns or something like that, just to add a little bit extra there. But again, still keeping everything pretty professional, nothing too loud as far as prints would go. Blouses or blazers are acceptable. You can even take a look on some of the screens. Today, all of the execs are dressed in business casual, so you can see some of us have blazers on. I don't have a blazer on, but a nice white blouse. So this clothing can be a little bit looser, a little bit more comfortable. And then heels, flats, and boots are appropriate. Try to avoid open-toed shoes. Too many different colors. You want to look pretty neutral and put together and professional, and then try to avoid any headwear except for religious or cultural purposes. And if we head to the next slide here, a couple more executives with our business casual outfits. And then again, feel free to drop anything in the chat that you would add. Again, here you can see I'm wearing a skirt, and then we have Zoe here wearing pants. So both of those are acceptable, kind of depending on how the weather is going to be. We're moving into winter here now, so even adding a blazer to either of these outfits would be perfect. And lastly, here we have business formal, which is going to be the most formal dress attire that we have. So in these situations, again, kind of sticking to those neutral colors. For this one, you will want a blazer and matching pants. So you'll want those to be the same color, kind of a matching set there. And again, you can have a blouse underneath that and a collared shirt. Again, limited jewelry here. Feel free to accessorize, but nothing too big or too crazy. Same thing here with heels or flats, but you want those to be closed-toed, and try to avoid, like we have here, stilettos, open-toed shoes, too much jewelry or makeup. You kind of want to look neutral there. And again, avoiding headwear except for religious or cultural purposes. And if we head to the next slide here, yeah, again, two of our executives here, they're wearing the same colored shirt, but feel free to pop in the chat how you would maybe want to mix this up. We can add different colored shirts here, but you can see that they both have matching blazers there.
Perfect. Can you all hear me? I think my Wi-Fi cut out for a sec. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Petra. So next, to consider where to shop. I know that question was asked earlier in the chat, which we're happy to answer now. So it can definitely be kind of overwhelming when you have to think about where you're going to get all these clothes and dressing appropriately for which events. But something to keep in mind is that business clothes you can definitely see as an investment. Some of them are definitely expensive, no doubt about that, but you are going to be wearing these clothes throughout your whole university experience, if not even past that, to interviews. And like an expensive black blazer, like you're always going to be able to wear that. But with price in mind, on the lower end, we have H&M, Old Navy, Dynamite, Garage. You can get some great staples there. A little bit more expensive, Zara, Gap, RW & Co. Yes, and Faith just mentioned in the chat thrifting, which was also something we were going to recommend. I found a few great blazers there, and so that's definitely a great way to add to your business attire. And then, of course, on the higher end, we have Aritzia, Wilfred, Banana Republic. I'm definitely guilty of buying there. However, great quality and will last you. So yeah, like I was saying, it's you can consider it an investment. And you can drop any other stores that I didn't mention in the chat. I'm sure we would all be happy to know. In addition, it's important to consider hair, makeup, composure. So for hair and makeup, clean, neat hair, as you can see, my go-to is a slick bun. And that also ties in composure as well in terms of being conscious of your body language. If you have your hair down, I find it very easy to like play with it or get distracted by it, which can be super distracting during interviews. So that's a great tip as well. I don't trust myself not to be worried about how my hair looks, so I just put it back. Makeup is clean and neutral, not dramatic, and my mom always says the best thing you can put on your face is a smile. So let your natural beauty shine through, and that's how you're going to charm everybody, I promise. In terms of composure, like I mentioned, being conscious of your body language and posture, it's going to be obvious if you're sitting there or even during Zoom interviews or online events. If you're in a chair, like if you're spinning around or like moving a lot, it's definitely distracting. Be confident, have good posture, and remember to smile.
Okay, amazing. Thank you, Jer. So next we'll be talking a little bit more about what to do during an event. So the two best pieces of advice that we can give is to have your elevator pitch ready and to ask questions. And I know we had a few questions about elevator pitches, so I'm glad we're bringing this up now. So an elevator pitch is sort of a brief description about who you are and a little bit about your program or maybe what year you're in at McMaster, especially at networking events when speaking to a speaker or an employer. Make sure to add a point about what interested or excited you about a position or a career and how that relates to their business. They appreciate when you've done some research about their company and then you can relate it back to yourself. Also, maybe mention what differentiates you from other students or other attendees at those events. And lastly, what's your objective? So what are you trying to achieve and how can that company or position, even the speaker, work into that objective? And secondly, ask questions. So we cannot stress this enough that asking questions is one of the simplest and most effective ways to make connections. So adding on to kind of what I just mentioned in elevator pitches, asking questions about a position or beginning a discussion with maybe what the company's up to right now is a great way to impress employers and show your interest. So some questions can even be directed to an employer or a speaker's individual experiences or general about maybe a job description or application processes that you have a few more questions about. So this will be mentioned a bit later in the presentation, but make sure to facilitate these conversations even after the event to really develop these connections further. Okay, and moving on to some networking do's and don'ts. So first, do. Be confident. So smile and maintain eye contact. Jer was mentioning this a little bit earlier. So if you feel and look confident, that behavior is going to be noticed by the employer and can really help you stand out over other individuals. And that works on the other side of a screen as well. Don't think that just works for in person. As I mentioned earlier, ask questions. It's a great way to stand out. And remember, these individuals and speakers that are at these events are there to answer your questions. And so it's a great idea to take advantage of this. And mingle. So making connections doesn't necessarily mean only with speakers and employers. I know I've said that many times, but that also means mingling with other attendees and making friends. And also, most importantly, be yourself and have fun with it. Now, moving on to some don'ts. So don't be overly aggressive. So picture this, you're talking with maybe a current intern at a company that you're really interested in. So when we talk about the 80-20 rule, what we mean is for 80% of the time, let the other person talk, and for 20% of the time, then you can talk about yourself. So maybe asking the other person about themselves, what they like and don't like about the position, and any advice they can give. Kind of relating to what I mentioned before, these speakers have given great advice to, I know, a lot of us. And so making sure that you're using these resources effectively. Don't forget to introduce yourself. So a great first impression can be remembered by employers and speakers long after the event finishes. Don't be afraid to talk about things that are not related to work. So these employers and speakers want to get to know you outside of the classroom and the workplace, and that includes your interests and hobbies. And also remember, these individuals are not business people 24/7. They have hobbies and interests as well that could relate to your own and start a great conversation. And also lastly, don't be a wallflower. So we know it can be a little nerve-wracking going to these events and really putting yourself out there, maybe for the first time, but we promise it's 100% worth it to make these connections.
Okay, moving on to virtual etiquette. It is really important to present yourself the best you can, even in a virtual environment. So here are a few tips. First and foremost, mute your microphone until it's your turn to speak. Try to find a space with good lighting and sit centered with your camera. Also, try to be aware of others in your breakout rooms. So try not to take up the entire discussion. Remember that your professional attire and body posture still matters, even though it's virtual. Lastly, thank the representatives for their time before leaving and leave in a respectful manner. Before the event, try to log into the meeting at least 5 minutes before to avoid any technical difficulties, and to prevent distractions, set up in a quiet room, put your phone on silent, and inform your family members or housemates that you're having an interview or you're at an event. And also, lastly, make sure the Wi-Fi connection is strong. For in-person etiquette, it's really important to dress for the occasion. We had an entire section for that during this presentation. So whether that be business casual, smart casual, or business formal, remember it's better to be overdressed than underdressed. Try to arrive at least 10 to 15 minutes earlier to account for delays in things such as parking or finding the building. When introducing yourself, start off with the general introduction and shake the other person's hand. When it comes to food, try not to fill up your plate with too much all at once. Also, try to take small bites and sips so that you're still open for conversation. Try to hold your plate, glass, and napkin in your left hand so that your right hand is available to shake.
Okay, awesome. So when you finally have some time after your networking event, you may think, well, what now? You know, you've had some amazing conversations with some talented individuals, and you have all these business cards and all this contact information. Well, now it's time to put all of that to use. So building trust and forming that relationship takes time and effort. So it's important that you continue these conversations outside your networking events. So using the tips from earlier, you've made a fantastic first impression, and now it's time to make these impressions last. So a few tips that you can set yourself up for success include connecting on LinkedIn. So send all of your event contacts an invitation. If you received business cards, you're most likely going to have some form of contact there. So that could be their emails, their phone numbers, etc. Also, send up a follow-up email or a message thanking them for their time. Express your gratitude and appreciation, followed by something valuable and compelling. You know, try to make these messages personal. So reference anything that you may have talked about with them. This will help refresh their memory since chances are they've met a lot of people. For me personally, in a networking event once, I was talking about an article that I read, and the individual asked me to send it to them. So when I did have the chance, I made sure to provide a link, and that was a great way to start that conversation up again and keep it going because they remembered who I was and responded with some intriguing discussion points. There also is no specific time limit, but it is recommended that we do send these emails after the networking event or at least within a 24-hour time frame. And don't forget to continue these interactions. If it's appropriate, see if they're willing and available to have another coffee chat and can provide more of their insights. Combining all of these tips with your preparation, you'll be able to develop a long-term meaningful relationship with people who have the mutual ability and willingness to help each other over time.
All right, and now we will be welcoming Faith Pember from CPA. Faith, we are so excited to have you here. The floor is all yours.
Excellent. I am so excited to be here, and I'm really excited that I sat through the other presentations because I'm really here to build off what has already been said because I will unabashedly play favorites. This is one of my favorite events to come out to because I think it's really important to talk about like the details, like how do I dress? How do I put my hair up? Because I think a lot of these concrete details are kind of missed when that kind of general networking advice is given out to students. So it's really nice to sit down and say, okay, what do I actually talk about? And Megan, I feel like you looked at my slides beforehand because the weather, that's my ultimate go-to default topic. So we'll get to that in a second, but I'm going to share my screen. And this is my job. So you think I'd be able to do this a lot smoother and quicker. But there we go. Can I get a thumbs up? We're all good? See my slides? Okay, so I do ask because there has been a couple times where I started my presentation and no one could see my screen. So hello, everybody. My name is Faith Pember, and I am your student recruiter from CPA Ontario. So I love sharing all of my insights from the recruiting world. So I think I am in a really unique, really great position to give these insights to you folks too, because I'm in that kind of neutral territory where I talk to a lot of recruiters and the recruiters that you'll be speaking to for these companies that you want to get these internships or jobs at. But I don't directly hire into CPA Ontario, so you don't have to worry too much about that in conversations with me. So I do love a really interactive chat. So please, put in comments. I loved seeing it throughout the rest of the presentations too. If you have questions as we go, please put them in the chat. I love addressing them as we go. And Marissa, I just sent you a PDF of my slides too. So these slides will be available to everybody at this event at the end as well. But I hope if you take one piece of information away from this, it's my name, which is my name on LinkedIn, and my email, because I really do love speaking with students. And I know sometimes these events can be intimidating and you don't necessarily want to speak in front of a lot of people because I'm used to public speaking now because that's my job, but I realize how intimidating it can be for students. So if you do have a question that you want to ask one-on-one, I do one-on-one advisement. So I really encourage you to reach out because like we were saying earlier in the presentation, people come out to these events to connect with you, to answer those questions. So do not feel like you're bugging someone by emailing them, especially when, you know, I'm flinging my email at you guys constantly. Okay, so I thought I would really touch on a lot of networking here, and I really wanted to talk about my very first networking event. So I started this role with no recruitment experience, and I was super excited for my first recruiting event as a CPA Ontario student recruiter. It was a LinkedIn workshop, actually, that we were doing with Shelley Elsliger that we've actually did previously a couple weeks ago with the FYOP on campus as well. So very full circle. And I remember I was so nervous, and I think that this was my face through the entire thing because I froze. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. So I want you to know that it doesn't just happen to students too. It does also happen to professionals. It does happen to professional networkers, which is essentially what I am. And it really got boiled down to two words: very awkward. Because I do see a lot of students kind of othering the other side with professionals or recruiters. There's this tendency to other or see these people as like an opponent, and I have to figure out the code and how to decode. We're all human here. I think Danielle put it really beautifully. You know, we're all trying our best, especially the last year and a half that has happened. It's really important to look after yourself, look after your mental health too, and really acknowledge that it's been a struggle. And, you know, sometimes these networking events can be a bit of a struggle as well. But like all growth, it happens outside of your comfort zone. So I really do challenge you. I'm really happy to see the amount of cameras that have been turned on for this event too. So I encourage you to step outside your comfort zone. And even if it's just 2 minutes or even just 60 seconds tonight, challenge yourself to turn on your camera, because I do lots of these events, and I will let you in on a little secret. Most people are staring at their own face. In fact, right now I'm looking at my own face because it's become a bit of my safety blanket. So I think when I go back to campus or doing these talks in front of an audience, I'm going to have like a hand mirror in front of me or something. But what I realized at my first networking event, as we went through it, I was like, wait a minute, I've done this before. Because networking is just talking to people, it's making friends. We've all been in this situation before as well. We've all had to make friends in university, be thrown into random classes, do the dreaded group project with partners that you didn't choose. You've been in this type of situation before, and look at that, we're all still standing, we're all still alive after it as well. Okay, so networking is great for introverts and for extroverts as well. I feel like a lot of networking is spoken or kind of catered or thought to be catered a little bit more towards extroverted people. So I think what really surprises a lot of people is that I'm actually very introverted. So introverted just means you recharge by being alone. So any form of human interaction exhausts me. So I'll be very tired after this event. Doesn't mean it wasn't worth it and I didn't enjoy it and I didn't have a good time, but it just means that I need to recharge by myself. Whereas extroverts, it means you recharge being around people. So you feel that swell of energy being around a group of people. So I encourage you to think of introversion and extroversion as a scale rather than just a binary thing as well. So one being the ultimate introvert and 10 being the ultimate extrovert, I would place myself at a pretty solid 3. So kind of depending on the day, maybe it's 5, and then, maybe it's not a great day and it's a 1. So on that scale of 1 being very introverted, 10 being very extroverted, where would you place yourself if you want to put it in the chat? Where do you think you've kind of fall on that scale? I also feel the sneeze brewing, so I'm very sorry if I abruptly sneeze in the middle. Interesting. Okay, so we have like okay, so some fellow 3s here as well. Excellent. So I want to let you know that you can be successful no matter where you are in that scale, however introverted or extroverted that you feel. It really is about tailoring your own energy to the event and the person that you're speaking to. So I speak a lot about matching energy with people that I'm speaking to, and I don't mean that in a woo-woo way. I mean that if you are speaking to someone who perhaps speaks a little slower and softer, they have a bit more of a calm energy, and I'm going to dig into the matter and talk like this. Okay, maybe you don't talk to them like this and you're really high energy and speaking fast and talking like that. You want to kind of bring it down to their level. You don't need to match exactly where that person is, but you just need to be within the same sphere that they are as well. So I actually networked my way into this job as a massive introvert. So about 5 years ago, and oh my gosh, I feel so old saying that. So about 5 years ago, I moved to Toronto because I had just come home from teaching English in South Korea. And I was like, you know what, I want to move to Toronto. And I'm so sorry, this sneeze is like caught in my nose right now. So I wanted to move to Toronto and I was like, I need a job. So I signed up at a temp agency and they said, hey, there's an opening at this great company, CPA Ontario. They need someone to work basically in the photocopy room. So I was like, sign me up. I want to get into the city. So for 4 months, I worked in a tiny little windowless room where I took staples out of paper, put them in a photocopier, and then stapled it again. That's what I did for 4 months. But what I did in that 4 months, and I didn't even really realize I was doing it until I was putting together this workshop or this material, was I was networking. Because I was just asking people, what can I do to help? Do you need any help with anything? Can I help you out with this? Oh, I saw this. Do you need any help with that? That's all networking is. It's just creating relationships. You're building relationships with each other. So working in that photocopy room, I then got my contract extended because they needed some help doing something, which I pointed out and said, hey, I can help you out with this. And then from there, when that contract was coming up, which was my second last day, I saw an opening in the education department, and I had a strong educational background just based on my previous job experience. So I walked in for an interview, and lo and behold, I got it. So I became a subject matter expert in the education department. Then when I became the subject matter expert in the education department, the recruitment team approached me and said, hey, we need someone to come talk to students about prerequisites for your CPA designation. So I do feel like I have a very strong background in that. So if anyone wants to talk about pursuing their CPA designation, you're talking to the right person. So I started going out to these recruitment events. And then when this job came up, my director at the time came up to me and said, hey, I think you should apply for this recruitment role. And now here we are. So it was all through referrals. It was all through talking to people, and it was all purely through just asking people, how can I help you? So I think a lot of students down talk themselves too, because they think, oh, what do I have to offer this professional? You have a lot to offer. A lot of what recruiters and a lot of what professionals are looking for are people to help them with their workload, people that they can mold into their future successor. So you do have a lot to offer. So I think it's very important to talk about the fear, and this is one of my favorite cartoons that I really should print out and frame. It's really important to acknowledge those types of fears, and I want you to know that recruiters and professionals, we all think the exact same thing too. We all have the exact same fears. Fearful of others knowing you are fearful. I think somebody in the chat had previously said, I fake it till I make it, or I fake that confidence. One of the best pieces of advice that I received was, Faith, absolutely no one knew you were anxious or nervous until you told us. Like, absolutely no, I did not get that vibe at all. And that kind of surprised me because I could feel how much I was sweating underneath my suit jacket. So it's like turning on your camera. Like when I told you, like, try to turn on your camera for these types of events. Most people are looking at themselves. Most people are more concerned with what's going on in their own heads, that they're really not going to register any fear in you as well. And, it's a bit of a trite phrase, but it's true. Fake it till you make it. And that fear of not being good enough, an imposter syndrome. I think we've all experienced this to a certain extent. I know I have definitely experienced this because I stepped into this recruitment role with zero recruitment experience. So this is a universal feeling. So I don't want you to feel like you're alone, that if you're ever feeling like an imposter, the biggest way to really combat all of these fears and for combating imposter syndrome, I think I've read every single article of like 10 ways to beat imposter syndrome on Google. Biggest thing is practice. And the same thing goes for like public speaking as well. The only way you're really going to be able to combat this is having proof that you can overcome all of these fears, and that proof comes through practice. So it truly is through repetition that you'll be able to combat all of these fears. Because there's this idea of what networking is. Networking is not selling yourself or saying very impressive things. There's a time and a place for that, called LinkedIn. Networking is not showing how great you are or asking for a job. Number one thing, if you're in a networking setting, do not ask someone for a job, because the subtext, oh, can you guys still hear me? Sorry, my thing just beeped. So the subtext is already there in a networking event. We all know why we're here. We want a job. They have jobs that they need to fill. So you guys don't really need to explicitly state that. We know why we're here, but bluntly asking someone, hi, can you hire me? It puts them in a very difficult position. It's like, well, Marissa, I just met you 5 minutes ago. I don't know if I want to hire you. Like, I need to interview you. I need to get to know you a little bit more, because what networking is showing how great the other person is, how great they are. asking thoughtful questions that you care about those answers, asking for advice and insights. There's a great quote: if you ask for a job, you'll get advice, but if you ask for advice, you might get a job. And I think that's very, very true. Yes, that's right. It is Harvey from Suits. And it is about being a go-giver. So I think we're all, or a lot of people are very familiar with the term go-getter. That's where you're putting the spotlight on yourself. You're talking about how great you are. And again, that's what your LinkedIn profile is for. But being a go-giver is putting the other person in the spotlight. And I will tell you right now, flattery will get you everywhere. Not over the top, oh my God, you're the most amazing person ever. Not over the top flattery, but talking about someone's career was like, wow, I can see that you made the jump from public practice to industry. That's something that I'm potentially interested, blah, 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 all this. You know, it's really impressive that you've done this. How did you do that? Like, how did you navigate, you know, putting the other person in the spotlight? That kind of flattery, that's what I'm talking about when I say put the other person in the spotlight. Now, who here has seen this quote before? I think this is one of the most overused quotes, but it is for a reason, because it is a very, very true quote. So this is Maya Angelou, who is a fascinating individual. I have learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So I have hundreds of conversations with different student groups, professionals, CPAs, CEOs, so many different people every day. Could I remember verbatim or the content of those conversations? No, probably not even slightly. But I remember how I feel when I talk to them, because I've spoken to Marissa several times. I don't remember verbatim the exact details that we spoke about. We were obviously speaking about this event, but I know that I felt very seen and heard, and we had a great conversation. And same with Petra as well, had a great conversation with them. And I know that I felt like a connection, I felt heard, and that's really the type of environment that you really want to foster with people, because especially recruiters, so I always speak to this from a recruiter perspective, is recruiters have hundreds of these conversations. So they're not going to remember specifically what you said, but they are going to remember the vibe, if I can kind of use that slang term. They're going to remember how they felt talking to you. That's the key to getting into that interview door. Okay, so I think I'm going to add my voice to the chorus here. If you do not have a LinkedIn profile, go get one. You can ignore the rest of me speaking right now. Go make a LinkedIn profile right now. And we've talked, I think, Megan, you really beautifully covered all the basics for this. So I'm just going to reiterate it. Get a headshot. Most of our phones are incredibly powerful cameras, so do not feel like you need to get like a big fancy headshot. I have access to resources where I can get this for free, so that's why I have a fancy headshot. But using a phone, just having a neutral background, doing something other than the default LinkedIn banner. For the longest time before I had a cool shot where it looks like I'm giving a TED Talk, before I had that shot, I just had like a very generic someone holding a plant. You know, growth was the theme that I really wanted to like illustrate on my profile. That's okay. There's lots of different preloaded banner templates. I think Canva is a really great place where you can get the proper sizing. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was actually at our Live at the Drive-In event. So I felt very chic because I actually took a lot of tips that you folks were talking about for dressing. It was very business casual. So just a white blouse, jeans, and then one of my thrifted tweed jackets, because thrifting is actually where I got most of my business wardrobe. And Uniqlo, I don't know if that got listed on the list too. That's one of my favorite places for getting blouses. They just, yeah, anyways, I think they're really beautifully constructed and very reasonably priced, because I do love a good deal. And you do not need to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Biggest thing, my tip for like clothing or business clothing is focus on the fit, not necessarily the brand. If something fits you better and it's from H&M and you look great in it and it makes you feel powerful, wear that. Do not feel like you need to get like a upscale brand or more expensive piece if you have a perfectly serviceable black blazer from H&M, which is what I have. So why would I go get a more expensive one when I have something much more personal? Anyways, so do something other than the default LinkedIn banner, get a headshot, edit your public profile URL. So this is what Megan touched on. Make sure, I know you took notes from Shelly's workshop. So if you're putting it on your link, your resume, make sure it has some professional variation of what your name is. It also does help the LinkedIn search algorithm, and to a certain extent Google. It helps people find you because you want it to be a public profile. This isn't Facebook where we're only going to connect with people we know in real life. This is a place where you do want to connect with people you've never met. And then this is something that I see in a lot of women in business, is hesitation to claim your titles. Claim your titles. Absolutely. Other than student recruiter, which is my job title, nobody started to call me any of these things. I just started calling myself public speaker, mentor, world traveler, lifelong learner. I see, I talk to a lot of students that want to get their CPA, so I see aspiring CPA in that as well. If you have anything that you really want to showcase, put it in your tagline, because this is what people see when they first click on your LinkedIn profile. And it's okay to be inspired by other profiles. When I was setting mine up, I was like, what do I write in my about section? I have no idea. So I looked at my colleagues, Sean and Gloria, and shamelessly semi-ripped them off. So I was like, okay, I really like how Sean structured this. So I'm going to put in my own story, but I'm going to structure it the same way because I think it's very impactful. And then as you go through your career, you can add and change and edit. Don't be afraid to refluff your profile every once in a while. Okay, the elevator pitch. So this is one of my favorite things to speak about as well. My biggest piece of advice, because I think we've already been over this a little bit, do not script yourself. I know it's very tempting to do so, and I definitely did in the kind of beginning of my career when I would do workshops or talks like this right now, but you want that natural conversation flow as well. And you know what, it's okay, don't feel guilty about doing that too, because that's totally something I do. And when you're starting out, you kind of need to write that sort of stuff down. But remember, you're talking about yourself and you are the expert on yourself. So think to yourself in that elevator pitch when you're talking to them, what is the employer looking for? So a lot of these companies, they all have company websites. They're all going to have their mission statement or some sort of tagline where they talk about, you know, the values. What are the company values? Go look at that. It's going to be very brief, sentence or two, maybe a paragraph. Look at that and see if you can tailor your elevator pitch to who you're speaking to. And then stories. Stories are my favorite thing because we've all been in those interview situations. We all know the interviewer is going to ask some sort of variation of, tell us about a time that you demonstrated blank quality. We all know that question is coming. So you can, to a certain extent, prepare for it. So you can prepare for it by thinking of different stories that have happened in your life. Think about the transferable skills that you have, those human skills or soft skills. So we're trying to call them human skills now because soft skills almost implies that they're not as important, but I think they are as equally, if not more important than any technical skills that you're learning in school as well. So that's resiliency, communication, time management, self-management, teamwork, leadership, those types of skills. Your extracurricular activities. Do not be afraid to talk about diverse experiences. I remember talking to a student who was VP of finance for the school's anime club, and they thought, oh no, that's not very professional. I don't want to put that on there. No, put that on there. You're the VP of finance. Talk about how that relates to your experiences. And yeah, don't maybe like talk about like the club, but or any movies you've seen, but then also if the conversation goes that way, don't be afraid to show that part of your personality. And that really comes down to diverse experiences, because a lot of these networking settings, we're just trying to get to know you. And that's really what an interview is. So I want everybody right now, not trying to panic anyone, but we will be doing breakout rooms. But I want you to think of a story right now. What's your kind of elevator pitch? What's a story that puts you in a really good light, or you think is a really interesting story? I know some people think of like, okay, fun fact about me, just something to generate discussion, because I think we've all been in those situations where everyone's just kind of standing there and going, hi, my name's Faith. And then nobody says anything. So if that does happen in the breakout rooms, or that ever does happen in a networking setting, I definitely default to humor, but it's okay to laugh at that because, you know, we've all found ourselves in these situations and it just means that we're human. And I think somebody in the chat had asked, where do I go to find these networking events? Well, you're at one right now because peer networking is just as valuable with the industry networking as well. But there's such a wide variety of student societies and clubs at DeGroote. So there's so many different ones that you can join. There's a lot that I sponsor and speak at. So I see a lot of really familiar names. So I'm sorry if anything is super repetitive that you've heard me say tonight. There's also the post-secondary ambassador program. This is something that I run with CPA Ontario. This is where we really work on creating that community and creating those network events. So it's $10 for the entire year, and it's technical skills workshops, human skill workshops, but more importantly, networking. We actually just launched the CPA Ontario Cafe, which is a kind of like a speed networking site where you sign up, you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we match you with a CPA, with an industry professional that you can speak to. So you organize a meeting offline off the platform to whatever suits both of you, and then you can have a quick little networking chat. And this is how you can really start to build that community around you, and also look into different cultural societies or community groups around you as well. There's a lot of inter-university college societies as well, so look those up as well. I know there's a specific, it's slipping my mind right now, but I know that you folks have a specific site that lists all of the different student societies and clubs. So take a look at it. And something I really found fascinating in my undergrad career is that there's a club for almost everything. So I thought that was really interesting. And even just joining as a general associate, do not feel like you need to be president to make it worthwhile, but just attending and helping out to these events and being part of that community is incredibly valuable. And Tavri, absolutely, definitely email me to talk. And anyone else that's interested in the post-secondary ambassador program, you can definitely email me. Now, let's talk about some concrete examples. Perfect, thank you, Marissa. So I like talking about like actual things you can speak about, because I know, Megan, you mentioned the weather, so that's my default. But the self-introduction or a little bit of your elevator pitch, sometimes you just need somewhere to start. So ask yourself these 3 questions. What do you do? How do you do it? And why do you do it? So this is kind of what my self-introduction is to a certain extent. I just kind of made it generic, like career coach. That's a lot of what I do in my work day to day with students. So structure this as well. And don't worry, you will get a copy of these slides as well, so you can use it for review. So I'm definitely a write it out to help remember it. So I did that the first couple times that I had to do these types of introductions. And then after a while, it'll really click in. Okay, I'm talking about me. I am the expert in me. So I don't really need to have a cue card in front of me. Okay, casual talk. Okay, and I can see a lot of really great chat going on in the chat. Yes, absolutely. Put it on the interest section in your resume or that extracurricular area. That extracurricular area of your resume is incredibly important, especially if you do not have a lot of professional or paid experience. Do not be afraid to highlight that as well, because just because it's an unpaid experience does not mean it's not valuable or you didn't learn any skills in it. Use those club activities, use those extracurriculars to really pad out and beef out your resume and talk about your experiences there. So casual or small talk, which I know is a lot of people's enemies, a lot of people hate it, but learn to love it, because that is where that rapport, that relationship really starts to build. Those 5 minutes before the speaker goes on stage and you're just kind of milling around and kind of talking to each other, that's when you're really going to build those connections. So that personal connection is what makes you memorable. I talked to Chantal, one of the relationship managers, who is amazing. I really encourage you to reach out to her as well. And I think we talked about maybe 20 minutes, we talked about cats. And that is how we built our relationship, because we both have cats. So we were just talking about cat mom life, that sort of thing, and just like the funny little things that they do. So we weren't necessarily talking about business or anything we were doing related to our jobs, but that's how we really started to build our relationship. Do not feel like you need to rush into business talk. It's not something that you need to immediately get to. Again, like the whole, hi, can I have a job? It's kind of weird. You remember, you're trying to build a relationship. I tell people to approach it almost like dating. So, if you go out on a first date with someone and you're like, hi, want to get married? That's kind of weird, right? That'd be weird for the first thing you say to someone on a first date. Well, it's the same sort of thing in a networking setting. It's perhaps, whatever your end game is with dating as well, we all kind of know why we're here, but you don't need to outright explicitly state it right away or rush into that business talk. It will come about naturally. And I love a good exit line. Oh, I had a great conversation. I'd love to follow up with you later. Can I connect with you on LinkedIn? That's a great exit line that I always use. And you feel free to use it as well. Change it to your speech so it sounds a little more natural coming out of you. But following up with someone later, it does let you continue that relationship and continue building it. So mining for common ground. These are some great topics that you can talk about, whether, especially in Canada, especially with how quickly it changes. I think that's probably my number one topic that I immediately jump into when I join a call. And I think the DOIB team can definitely attest to that. That's something I definitely always start with. You can talk about food. Did you go to a cool restaurant lately? Any hobbies, parenting, pets? Like I was just talking about with cats. I talk about my cat Molly all the time. Travel, maybe a little bit different with COVID right now. Vacation, holidays. Are you going to do anything? Are you going to go skiing in the winter? Are you going to go to Blue Mountain? Current events, anything that has currently happened. I will blanket statement. I feel pretty confident saying just stay away from politics. It's a bit of a minefield. So I would just blanket statement, just stay away from any politics. You can talk about this event, or you can talk about the event that you're at. Oh, how was traffic getting here? Oh, I got stuck on the 401. Yeah, there's so much construction around Milton. That kind of stuff. So don't be afraid to go talk about the event that you are at. And of course, COVID or this pandemic is a great unifier. It's something we have definitely all experienced. However, a little asterisk on that particular one, try not to make it too negative talking about it. So again, to your comfort level, whichever one of these topics, this is by no means an exhaustive list. This is just to give you an idea. Okay, thoughtful business questions. So I thought these were really important to put up interesting questions because this comes up in conversation with students a lot. What do I ask these people? What do I actually say? Or what's a good idea of a question? So what it really comes down to is these are all really good questions. These are questions I have been asked by students. But the most effective question is one that you actually care about the answer or answer to. You actually care about the answer. Because recruiters and a lot of people, and I wouldn't say like recruiters have a superpower, but everybody can tell when you're just asking it to just ask the question. You're just asking it because you think it's a particularly impressive question to ask someone. I care a lot about office culture. So that's always top of my list. That's always something that I always ask because I truly care about that answer. So when you're crafting these business questions or these questions to ask individuals, think about, do I actually care about this answer? What do I actually want to know? Or what sort of information do I want from this person? And then this is a great 3-step process that I actually got from one of my previous volunteers. So it's a follow-up. So you reach out to them. So LinkedIn, again, very important. If you do not have a LinkedIn profile, make one right now. Reach out and remind them, where did you meet them? What was the name of the event? Jog their memory. And then follow through. If you said you'd do something for or with them, or you said you'd check out an article, do it. Tell them about it. And then follow back. So they've caught your attention. You've started to build that relationship. You've connected for a reason. Do not be afraid to tag people in LinkedIn posts. In fact, I challenge all of you, make a LinkedIn post about this event, tag me in it. I love seeing students' thoughts. A lot of what my work is trying to get inside your heads and figuring out what do you like about these events? Because with the post-secondary ambassador program, I create a lot of these different events. So I'm always really curious as to what we can do better and what we can build for you, because that's really what our jobs are about. And this is an example of a real message that I received from a student. And oh my gosh, this was like perfect. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So it was, hi Faith, met you at this event. This is what I've been doing. And then a little bit of a hook to continue with the conversation as well. You should always end with some form of a question or some form of engagement, especially if it's one of the first times you're reaching out to them or messaging with them. Keep it light, keep it open. Don't be asking them very heavy technical questions right off the bat, because again, you're kind of asking for something from them. So just keep it light. So how are you handling the virtual environment? So I could answer that any which way, but it gives me kind of something to talk about with this particular student. Now we're going to do practice time. So I know some people get a little bit nervous with this, so I want you to know it's okay if there's like awkward silences. There's no industry, there's not like industry professionals here. Like, you're not going to be judged, you're not going to be graded on this. You're going to be put into random breakout rooms of small groups, and your goal is to ask questions. Remember, we're going to be go-givers. We're going to ask other people. Yes, these are very much no pressure breakout rooms. So I want you to find something that you all have in common, something that's not school related. So I know sometimes, so I had to add that in because a lot of people are like, we all go to DeGroote or we're all McMaster students. So I want you to dig a little bit deeper. What's something that you all have in common? Like an example, we've all been to the Yukon. I remember that was really interesting and kind of out of left field from one of the rooms when I did this activity. And then I want you to come back to the main room and put in the chat what you have in common. Then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A period, if time permitting, because I know Marissa, you're kind of watching the clock, if that's okay. So we'll give people about, let's say about 10 minutes-ish, and I'll kind of bounce around to the breakout rooms and just kind of help with any conversation if you have any questions for me. And then we can come back, and I know we have some wrap up, but I really encourage you, ask me any and all of those questions that you have about recruiters, because I am here to help you. I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, so we have random breakout rooms, and let me just move it so it's a little more even. And I do see that there are some people that have flashed, but that's okay. So I really applaud all of you for sticking around. Okay, so I'm going to open all the rooms. And good luck, everybody. We'll be back here in about 10 minutes. So does anybody want to put in the chat, what do you folks have in common? Or if anyone wants to do any, come up on camera and unmute themselves and say, what did you find out that you had in common? Oh, nice. I love fantasy books too. All been to Disney World. Ooh, I love it. Fantasy books too. Oh, I'm a huge fantasy nerd. If you have any recommendations, my ears are open. Oh, I love that. Whoa, Neha. All used to live 15 minutes away from each other. Wow, that's freaky. I love
So
that.
crazy. It's so crazy.
Love it. Oh, and a love for traveling. Perfect. Okay, so hopefully this could be your first, or if not your first, or just further proof to prove to yourselves that you can do this. You can network, because what you just did, that's networking. That's literally all networking is. It's just relationship building, and you guys have been building relationships your entire life, and I love it. We've all been to the Dominican. Oh, I'd love to go there. And like Harry Potter, it is fall. I think it's time for a Harry Potter series reread. I haven't read it in a couple of years. I think the weather is just right for it. Okay, excellent. So I know we have about 15 minutes until the next kind of round of breakout rooms where you can speak with the executives. So I really do want you to know that I'm here to answer any and all of your questions about recruiting, networking. Any questions about CPA too are always welcome. No question is too big or too small. And I will tell you, if you are thinking it, I guarantee you at least 3 other people on this call are thinking it as well. And no question is too big or too small. And you can always ask about my own career and, you know, how did you do this? And Marissa and I were also talking about fashion and like, you know, dressing. And a lot of mine started out, I borrowed very heavily from friends and from my mom before I could build up my wardrobe. And H&M is good price for, you know, building up that business wardrobe. You know, girls on a budget. And Dynamite is where I actually get a lot of my stuff even to this day. It's very professional looking at a reasonable price as well. Yeah, so are there any questions or ever any comments or feedback too? I'm always open to constructive feedback from students too, because a lot of my job is trying to figure out, what do you want? So what kind of events like do you enjoy and want to see more of?
I love like resume building ones. I feel like I can always add new things to my resume.
Interesting. So I feel like that's a very common topic, and a lot of people do resume building workshops. So I'm always trying to think, okay, what's the different, what's the it factor that I could put on or CPA could put on for resume building? Is there a certain part of your resume that you're more curious about? Is it a lot of fundamental, like what font do I use? Or is it, how do I talk about my accomplishments at work? Like, how do I structure the resume?
I like learning a lot more about the things that aren't like my direct job or my direct positions, like including my additional interests on there or including some of my certifications or those kind of things where it's kind of like, what do I include? What do I not include? I know some people earlier were saying, do I include if I was a general member for a club? Just learning about all of those things.
Interesting. Would you folks agree with that? Is it that's the kind of more resume? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of nodding. Yeah, it's because I think it's that age-old conundrum. It's like, can't all these in I completely 100% commiserate with you. This is something that frustrates me to no end, seeing entry-level jobs that require 2 years of experience. Like, well, then by definition, it's not entry level. Lean on a lot of your extracurricular activity. And I will tell you right now, a lot of recruiters and HR hiring managers, when they put up like requirements for the job, that's their dream list. That's their dream candidate. Very often, the candidate that they choose does not have everything on that list. So it really is shoot your shot. So if it says like 1 to 2 years experience, you need to know these 3 technologies. Okay, you know 2 of those technologies really well, you know a third one kind of just in passing, and you only have like 8 months of experience. Still apply for it because you're still within the kind of parameters for it. Or if it says like 1 to 2 years experience and you only have the 1 year experience, and you know, as perhaps it was a little more extracurricular form, or it was volunteering as well, go for it, because like I said, that's those lists, that's just their dream candidate. Very often they're not going to find it. They're saying like, this is the ultimate person for this job. Okay, about the resume, Tavri, you're full of great questions. Thank you for all your questions today. And I think you specifically asked about PSAP. And if anyone's interested in PSAP or wants to connect with me or has any other questions, I'll put my email in the chat. So about the resumes, I've always been curious to know how to visually format the resume. Should we keep it traditional or maybe add some color or profile picture? Keep it traditional. So in North America, I know in different cultures, it is standard practice to put a headshot. So I worked in South Korea for 2 years and it's standard practice there to put your headshot on your resume. Don't do that in North America. There's a lot of growth in the industry and just the business world in general for diversity and inclusion and equity, and putting your picture on it negates a lot of that. So a lot of companies, and what I would love to see every company do, is blind resumes where you just get a candidate number, so there's no discrimination based on name. So don't put your profile picture. LinkedIn is where you can get colorful, so don't like put your name as purple and like this thing is red over here. Keep your resume fairly traditional. LinkedIn is really where you can show that personality, where you can put a little bit more pizzazz, if I can use that term. I really do encourage you, look at people's LinkedIn profile that make you go, oh wow, that's a really cool profile, because that's completely how I built mine. I just shamelessly copied a bunch of people, then molded it to my own voice. So take a look at mine, because I think my LinkedIn profile is pretty good. But take a look at any professionals that you speak to or network with, or any of the executives here as well. Take a look at their LinkedIn profiles and think, wow, I really like how Gabby, did her tagline. I like how she used this thing. Okay, I really like how Jerry, structured the about section. So I love that they brought up this story. So I'm going to think of a similar story. So, because very often in the creative process, when you're writing these things out, you'll be like, no, I'm going to do it this way. And then you just take it from there. But sometimes to help you springboard and just, remove the friction of starting, you can just straight up just copy what someone else did and then reword it. Not the same story. Do not copy their story. This is not me endorsing you copying anyone, but just taking what someone's written, because I actually looked at Sean's profile, because Sean mentored me through, he's the other half of the GTA recruiters. So we split up the GTA between us. So I literally copied his story. And then I thought, okay, what do I really like about how he wrote in his about section about his story? I love that he talked about teaching internationally, which is something we have in common. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to talk about that too. But it's not going to be the same story that he did. I'm going to talk about something interesting that happened in my teaching career. And then it just kind of builds from there. It's really to give people just a sense of who you are in conversation topics. Resume roast. Oh my gosh, I've never heard of that. What is that, Megan?
I can't remember which McMaster Club it is, but I saw an ad for it, or like a promotional post on Instagram, and basically you can submit your resumes and then they just pull it up, and I guess they tell you everything that, you could improve on your resume. So I guess, you got to have thick skin if you're going to submit your resume to that, but it's an interesting way to host a resume workshop.
Interesting. Oh, there's so many ways that could go right and so many ways that could go wrong, because like a good roast has the person being roasted laughing along with it. But that's actually really, wow, I really love that. I'm gonna have to take that back to the team. I don't think we'd be able to pull that off because it's never my goal to make someone cry. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, Kristen, yeah, so I only have the only other kind of I guess like job area or different like culture that I've worked in South Korea, but I know it's present in several other cultures as well. So a lot of my advice is tailored specifically to a North American audience. So it is like if you're looking at like working overseas too, it's very advisable to talk to anyone who works within that sphere, within that culture, within that country. Oh, I would 100% cry. I would totally cry if someone roasted my stuff. Roasting LinkedIn profiles. Yeah, and you know what? Like, have a photo shoot day. So I did this with a couple of my friends. So I actually work directly with them. They have a wellness company. So I do like workshops and talks for them. But when they were first building their company 5 years ago, I literally just borrowed a really nice camera and we just wandered around this really nice park. I think it was like the Manulife building at Bloor-Young. And we just kind of did a photo shoot of like wandering through the park where it's like, aha, like candid shot where we're walking and talking and that kind of stuff. And they still use a lot of that collateral to this day. And that's a really like fun activity, free activity to do with a bunch of friends. I think most or a lot of us will have like smartphones, and like the cameras, they're amazing these days. Especially like I think it's like the new iPhone. It's ridiculous. Like it's just such a nice camera. Just go out and do like a photo shoot with a bunch of friends. Like put on, your more professional gear, and like you do not have to spend a lot of money on a headshot. You can just do it for free with your phone. Just get someone else to take it, just so you don't get that weird selfie arm sort of effect. What's it called? So it's called Fresh Talk. Oh, shameless plug. It's called Fresh Talk Wellness. So look them up. I think they have a pretty dynamic website. So I'm not quite on it yet because I'm just developing content right now, but it's a wellness-based company, a lot of focus on mental health. And this is something that I try to weave in through a lot of my talk as well. And Marissa and I were speaking about events too. As much as I would love to see every single person come out to every single PSAP event, make sure to balance your time. I think there's this tendency with a lot of us to be like, oh, it's just online, whatever. The energy of being on and at an event, this is what I was touching on with like introversion and extroversion, it's a lot. It's still the exact same emotional sync as physically being at an event. Like I will still feel the same level of tiredness after this as if we were in person. So take that time to kind of commute back. So I'm very lucky in that I have a separate office. So I basically sit on my couch and scroll through my phone mindlessly for like 5 minutes before I walk out and go have dinner, just to disengage. So if you have any like rituals to disengage from your work, do not feel like you need to go to every single event. A lot of these events, a lot of these things you go to, it's very repetitive, it's very cyclical. They come around every year. So you'll see a lot of the same people. Try to push yourself outside your comfort zone and, buddy up for events, like have a networking buddy that you go to these events with. So a little person cheering you on, have your camera on, but do not feel like you need to go to every single event that is ever offered by DuGroot in order to be successful, because you do not. So I hope that impacts people. So I hope that takes a little bit of pressure off. I see a lot of students putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and you do not need to figure out your career right now. I'm 31. I'm still figuring out what I want to do for my career, and I will until I retire. So do not feel like you need to know exactly what you want to do when you grow up or graduate, because everyone is still figuring it out. Excellent. Well, thank you for letting me shamelessly plug Fresh Talk as well. And I really enjoyed coming out. Thank you so much for having me come out. I love coming out to Women in Business events. I love working with you guys. And hopefully I will see you folks at future events. So don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn or through my email. Yeah, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Faith. We really appreciate you coming out. I think we all learned a lot and really enjoyed this. All right. So for those of you who are still here, we just wanted to give a little reminder to save the date for our speaker series event, which is coming up on Tuesday, November 16th. That will be our second signature event for the year, and registration will be opening sometime next week. So be sure to keep an eye out on your emails and your social media. We encourage whoever is here to stay for our next networking session with our executives for a chance to win some cool prizes. However, for those of you who do have to go, we thank you so much for coming out tonight, and we hope you enjoyed. So for those of you who are staying to network, each executive will be in a breakout room. I will be staying in this main room. And then you can choose which breakout room to go to for just about 10 to 15 minutes. We'll meet back again in the main room, and we'll give out some prizes to those of you who stood out while networking. So I will open the rooms right now, and you should be able to choose which room you're going to on the little bottom of the screen, but let me know if you have not received, if you cannot see that. If you can see that, just hop into whatever room you choose, and executives go into your respective room. All right, I think most people are back now. I just wanted to give a big thank you to everyone on behalf of the whole DWIB team for coming out. We hope you enjoyed tonight's Teach Me How to Business event, and we're looking so forward to continue to see you through all of our events this upcoming year. Yeah, and we hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, comments about anything about the event, feel free to reach out to us on email or on Instagram. The slides and the recording will be shared with you in the next few days, so you'll have those as well. For our networking session, I hope you all enjoyed and were able to meet some cool people, talk to some executives, maybe meet some other members. So for that, we have some winners for our networking session. So our first winner, Dimple, do you have it ready, or are we just gonna read out? All right, we're gonna read it out. Okay, so our first winner, we have Evelyn Stang. If you are still here, we will be reaching out to you shortly for the winner, or for your prize. Our next winner is Tavreet Gill.
Thank you.
Our next winner is Gabby. I'm gonna really mess up your last name. Degano, maybe.
It's Degano, you're right.
Degano, awesome. Our next winner is Madeline Foti. And next as well, we have Emma Rashkit.
Thank you.
And we have Rebecca Jacobs, as well as Nicole. I'm gonna mess it up. Nicole, you know it's you. And then we also have Mishita Patel. So thank you to all of you guys for participating in Teach Me How to Business. We will be reaching out to you for your prizes. And thank you again on behalf of the whole DWIB team for coming out, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great event, guys. Bye, everyone. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.